Imagine you are standing on the edge of the Pleistocene. You have been tracking a herd of mammoths for 3 days, but they are faster than you, and your spear is nowhere near as sharp as you need it to be. You are starving, your energy is fading, and you see something twitching under a rotting log, a plump, wriggling beetle the size of your thumb. Did our ancestors stop to eat that, or did they hold out for the big game? The short answer is yes. They absolutely ate the bug. Entomophagy, or the practice of eating insects, wasn't just a snack of last resort. For early humans, it was a caloric goldmine hiding in plain sight. We have been conditioned by modern, westernized society to recoil at the thought of a locust or a grub. We call them creepy crawlies, we call them pests. But for over 2 million years of hominid evolution, these six-legged proteins were essential to our survival. Let's look at the biology. Insects are packed with high-quality protein, healthy fats, fiber, and micronutrients like iron, zinc, and B12. 100 grams of termites can provide nearly 350 calories. That is roughly equivalent to a burger, but without the need to hunt, skin, or cook a 1,000-pound beast. The archaeological evidence is subtle but unmistakable. We don't find bug fossils in the same way we find mammoth tusks because insects don't have bones. Instead, we look at the tools. Researchers have discovered specialized digging sticks dating back nearly 2 million years. These tools weren't just for digging tubers, they were perfect for breaking into termite mounds. Think about the intelligence required for this. A termite mound is a fortress. It is hardened earth, often as tough as concrete. To get inside, you need to understand the structure. You need a tool. You need patience. This wasn't just foraging. It was sophisticated, extractive behavior. Anthropologists point to the Hadza people of Tanzania as a living window into our past. They are one of the last remaining groups of hunter-gatherers on Earth. Their diet is seasonal and opportunistic. When they find a hive of honeybees, they don't just take the honey. They consume the larvae and the pupae inside the comb. It is a dense, buttery source of fat and protein. It is highly likely that our ancestors, millions of years ago, were doing the exact same thing across the African savanna. But why aren't insects the centerpiece of our diet today? Why did we pivot so hard toward cattle, pigs, and poultry? The shift happened around 10,000 years ago with the Neolithic Revolution. We traded the freedom of the hunter-gatherer for the predictability of the farm. We began cultivating wheat, barley, and rice. We domesticated livestock. Suddenly, we had a massive, concentrated supply of calories. We didn't need to chase individual beetles anymore because we had a silo full of grain and a pen full of goats. However, there is a biological paradox here. We stopped eating insects, but our brains didn't stop craving the nutrients they provided. We just replaced them with processed alternatives. Consider the efficiency. To produce 1 kilogram of beef, you need about 25,000 liters of water and 10 kilograms of feed. To produce 1 kilogram of crickets, you need roughly 1 liter of water and 2 kilograms of feed. Insects are roughly 20 times more efficient at converting feed into protein than cattle. If our ancestors were so smart, and if insects are so efficient, why does the ick factor exist? Why do we find the crunch of a fried cricket so repulsive? It is a psychological barrier called neophobia, the fear of new or strange foods. Throughout history, societies that developed agriculture began to view insects as signs of crop failure. If your farm is swarming with locusts, you aren't thinking about a protein supplement. You are thinking about the destruction of your livelihood. Over thousands of years, that cultural association turned from food to enemy. We taught our children to avoid them, to swat them, and to wash them off our plates. But the tide is turning. Organizations like the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization have been pushing for a return to entomophagy for years. They call it the future of food security. With the global population expected to reach nearly 10 billion by 2050, we simply cannot sustain our current levels of meat consumption. The planet doesn't have enough water or land to keep scaling up industrial cattle ranching. So we are coming full circle. We are seeing high-tech insect farms in Europe and North America producing cricket flour for protein bars and pasta. We are realizing that the primitive snack of our ancestors might actually be the most sophisticated solution for our future. Is it weird to eat bugs? Maybe. But is it weird to destroy our forests to graze cows while the most efficient protein source on the planet scurries beneath our feet? When we look back at the Pleistocene, we often imagine our ancestors as brutish figures, shivering in caves and desperately hoping to spear a deer. We underestimate their ingenuity. They were scientists of their environment. They knew that a termite mound was a pantry. They knew that a handful of ants was a meal. They didn't have the luxury of pickiness. They survived because they were flexible. The real question isn't whether ancient humans ate bugs. The question is why we ever decided to stop. Our ancestors didn't just survive on insects, they thrived on them. They fueled the brain growth that eventually led us to invent agriculture, cities, and the very technology you are using to watch this video. Perhaps when we look at the future of our species, we should stop looking at the horizon for a new technological miracle and start looking down at the ground. Sometimes the most advanced solution is one we left behind 10,000 years ago. Next time you see a cricket in the garden, don't just see a pest, see a legacy. See a link to the people who walked the earth long before we decided we were too refined to eat from the soil. The cycle of history is rarely a straight line. It is a circle, and right now we are looping back to the very things that kept us alive when we were just learning how to walk. Are we ready to reclaim that part of our diet, or are we going to let our cultural biases starve us in the face of a changing climate? The answer is on your plate, if you are brave enough to put it there. The ancient humans were. They were hungry, they were smart, and they knew that the smallest things often pack the biggest punch. Maybe it is time we took a lesson from them once again.